Standing Rock does, we always include Meskwaki Nation and their youth and their tribe in litigations, protests, divestment campaigns, targeting Army Corps of Engineers. So I always like to acknowledge them first and share that knowledge. It was not Standing Rock who stood up first, that it was the Meskwaki Nation that stood up first. Our story overshadowed them, and that's something that is really vital to understand and know, that even though we're all Indigenous, we can overshadow smaller tribes. And so I always like to acknowledge them first. MMIW definitely impacts Lakota, Dakota Treaty Territories. You see it through infrastructure of uranium, gold, pipelines, fossil fuels, and now we're currently facing false solutions such as carbon capture. Carbon capture is really interesting because it is a false solution. It isn't. There's a huge campaign and disproving false solutions, and these false solutions only move the issue around. It doesn't actually take it. And so with SES, and the SES is a new pipeline that's coming through Lakota, Dakota Treaty Territory. And I'm really thankful that this is the first time, because we learned from our mistakes from the generations before us. This is the first time Lakota Treaty Territory where we have 26 counties, non-Indigenous, standing in solidarity with us. But that's because we learned our lessons from KXL, and we learned our lessons from NODAPL, and we stood in unity together. We utilized our white allies, and when these discussions first started coming about SDS coming into Lakota, Dakota Treaty Territory, we were really clear with our white allies, like we cannot go door knocking to explain what false solutions are and what carbon capture is. If we go door knocking, we're going to be shot. So this is first and foremost your responsibility as a white ally to go and educate other non-Indigenous community members. And they did an amazing job. And through this bridge and this alliance, this is the first time we actually passed legislation in February that any type of carbon capture cannot use eminent domain within Lakota Treaty Territory. So I'm really thankful for this, for learning our mistakes through movement and learning how to build bridges and learning when to set bridges on fire. Both are vital. When do we build them and when do we set them on fire and walk away? So I'm really thankful for that. But these infrastructures that are being created within Lakota, Dakota Treaty Territory, how does it impact MMIW and MMIWR, our relatives? And how does it impact with human trafficking? Right now, currently in Rapid City, South Dakota, there's 32 missing. 32. And we have famous activists in Rapid City, and 32 are missing right now. In November, we had on Standing Rock, bringing it closer to home on Standing Rock, one missing for 6 days, and it was grassroots. It was hardcore grassroots communities, and this is why we got to uplift our grassroots community, because it was Swan American Horse who organized a search on the ground, who organized the horse riders to go out cross country to do the searching. It was grassroots that provided the food for the searchers. It was that created a grid that walked miles on top of hundreds of miles looking for the young girl that went missing in November. And on the 6th day is when they found her. She froze to death. And that was really heartbreaking. But it was our grassroots that organized on that level and pulled everyone together. And it was really devastating for us in November. It was really devastating because people don't like to acknowledge that some of our policies can be really harmful. So like a really famous one is Crodog ex parte. Crodog ex parte is the policy that created that Indigenous people that are federally recognized do not have jurisdiction over the 7 major crimes. And us not having jurisdiction over that, we couldn't utilize BIA to go out and look for this young lady in November. We couldn't utilize Game and Fish because it wasn't a major crime. This is falling through the cracks. These are congressional policies that directly impact us, that murdered and missing women, and it's created by the fossil fuel industry through man camps and human trafficking. And it was really heartbreaking to be a part of this. I'm a huge supporter of Swan American Horse and her crew that go out searching daily, that create grids, that fundraise for their own dogs, their own cadaver dogs, that they walk. Oh my God, I went out with them in January of 2021, and it was negative 48. We had to bundle up and have hand warmers, feet warmers, and we had to walk 11 miles to walk a grid. And so the boots on the ground of MMIW is who I commend. Like, I personally commend. I'm not a boots on the ground coordinator, but I do my best to support them because they're the ones that are physically out there searching. They're the ones that are creating the flyers to get the names out there. You know, say her name, say his name. They're the ones who are doing it, and I really uphold them and honor them because it's really hard to come across a relative and to have that trauma. They carry it. You know, they found her and they carry that trauma now of finding her. They carry that image of finding her frozen for the rest of her life. And so I really honor them because they're the real deal, and those are the ones that we need to empower and uplift. I also commend Ruth Buffalo. Again, she is within the North Dakota legislation, but it was through her act that Trump signed. People always like to accredit Trump for signing the MMIW Act, but it was all Ruth Buffalo in North Dakota that pushed it all the way through with Elizabeth Warren. It was Indigenous women that passed that act. All he did was sign it. It was the Indigenous women that did the research, proved that there was a lack of data, showing that there was lack of data, that this need is real. And I always honor her because I don't like to be in those spaces. I don't like to be in the political entity at all. So I always commend her for pushing it through. And we need all prongs. We need the politicians to be advocating to drop down the resources on a state, federal level to do search and rescues. And then we need our mental awareness crew to create, like, when our people come home, how do we take care of them? If they're human trafficked, how did they be incorporated back into society because they endured something so traumatic? That mental health, that physical health, how do we help? So those are the things that I always like to talk about and bring up, and that people need to understand that all prongs are vital. We need boots on the ground, we need policymakers, we need mental health, we need physical health when it comes to MMIW, and understanding that these infrastructures are created by the fossil fuel industry and they're all interdependent on each other. Human trafficking wouldn't exist if these man camps didn't exist. And these man camps don't exist if we're continuing using fossil fuels. So it's an everlasting wheel that we need to stop.
Powerful, powerful words, feelings, and memories that are stirred through all of this. I'm looking over here at my sister Cammie, and with your permission, sister, may I mention our lost sister that was found in Oklahoma City on the railroad tracks.
Can you go get my chair from the car?
And it was never looked at as the murder that it was, that we know. Because she was a woman that was disposable in today's society. In our society, among the Ponca, we know her grandparents, her great-grandparents. We know her ways through the generations and the generations to come that have lost her and will never know her. And I see my sister in pain over here, and it gives me pain as well. And it brings to mind so many. You know, my girl talking about the water, the sacred water. And it makes me think of Madisha Dinge, our little girl that was out partying with some friends. And they knocked her off a bridge into the water. And she died in that water. Young woman, young children. And when she died in that water, the girl that was responsible, her and her friends, their dad was sheriff of Osage County. And that was the end of that. I could think of the ones along the roadways up there at home on 177 and Highway 60 that were run down for sport by the white people in our territory. Never thought of again. I remember riding recently with my granddaughter Casey, Julie's daughter, and someone was asking me about the connection with ConocoPhillips Petroleum and the refinery and those people that come through there for temporary jobs and long-term jobs. And they said, do you have man camps here? And I said, well, not that you would recognize, you know, because it's like RV camps all around us. And they bring in meth, and that stills the spirits of our young women, young men, children, even up to elders. They fill the bars and buy the drinks. And granddaughter told me, she said, Grandma, she said, do you see those old seedy motels we just passed out there by Osage Casino on Highway 60? I said, yeah. She said, those are man camps, Grandma. That's where those oil and gas people come and rent up whole blocks of rooms for the times that they're there for turnaround. That's where they take our women. That's where they take children and rape. And if they don't murder them outright, they murder their spirit. They murder their ability to go forward as Ponca people, as Indigenous people. And they do it with impunity from the local law because they got deep pockets. Because they have the ability to drive away and go to the next town and do it to the next people. And the majority of these places, these people, they're in Indigenous communities. They're in Black communities. They're in Hispanic communities. They're in poor communities. And they feel as if they have the right to behave that way. It's part of that extractive industry mentality. They come with greed. They come with a way of thinking that is beyond our understanding. And I have to go back to your grandma one time when I was telling her, Mama, I don't understand. How could they think that way? She said, you just be happy you don't understand, my girl, that your mind doesn't work that way. But now our minds have to look at this in its reality. And we have to look at those red teepees and the symbolism. And I want to say thank you to Norm for always bringing that symbolism around to every place that we meet together. To always remind everyone that it's not just our missing murdered Indigenous women, it's our people. It's our people. It's the young men that my girl was talking about. It's the unborn that never even have a chance to come into this world to make a way forward because their mamas and daddies are gone behind the meth, gone behind the kind of things that comes with the extractive industry, the very extraction of our spirits, our religion, our culture, our way of being in touch with our Mother, the Earth. And to give reality to the change that has happened, even though those stupid politicians are constantly making promises. And I have to even say that about someone that I admire, Deb Haaland. She has promised so much, but she's a bureaucrat too, like they are now. Good woman, good Native woman, trapped in a system that doesn't allow her to do the things in her heart. So where does the strength come from to make these changes? Where did this MMIW, MMIP movement begin, and where is it going? Is where we have to concentrate on now. It comes from grassroots. It comes from our girl, Shima, looking for her son and staying on social media. It comes from those of us who love Madisha and will never let them off the hook. We will prove somehow in some way that they're responsible for her. It comes from those out in the snow and walking a grid. It comes from the Mother Earth herself, who demands justice at this time they call climate change, who sees that the extractive industry has done as much as she's going to allow. And so she changes the way the world is, with her winds, with her waters, with her fires, with her droughts, with her floods, with her tornadoes, hurricanes. All of those are part of us because we eat, drink, and breathe at her breast. And with that comes the knowledge of how to feel like she does and say, that's enough. That's enough. Now we recognize the source in its entirety. Now we speak your language. Now we understand your laws. Now we know your social mores and your religion. And then my Ponca ways, they're just pitiful. They don't have ways. They don't have goodness. So we will teach from the bottom up, from the soles of our moccasins into the generations to come, until this is no longer an issue, until enough people understand. It's so silly, but I was watching Law and Order. I like all those kind of shows. And they had someone coming in from the Asian community in that one, and they said, what, you don't have a database about Asians? I had a difficult time with that. And I look at those things all the time critically from our viewpoint to say, how did they try to make us invisible even within our own communities? And how many have bought into that? We, the original children of Mother Earth here on Turtle Island, are the ones that they're turning to now. They look for indigenous knowledge in order to cure this thing called climate change. They look to indigenous knowledge to fill that empty portions of themselves from that religion that says, you're going to go to hell. We don't have that. Thank God. Wakanda forever. Woo! And we have this. We have joy. And we have laughter. And we have the determination, the minds, the hearts, and the spirits to correct those things that have been led astray, to bring our children home, to give life again to the unborn that are waiting to teach us how to live in balance one more time. And when we do, we're not going to forget them. Again, they need our help. And we were taught better. And so MMIW, MMIP, coming from the earth herself up into the awareness of all that is, we can do that, but it's up to all of us. It's up to each and every one of us to raise this issue and say, that's a precious one in our lives. That's one more star that's along the Milky Way that belongs walking this red road and teaching and living. That had a sacred gift that was yet to be shared. And your greed is no longer an excuse for your behavior.
Come on up.
Mekuhuk, everybody. So again, Crystal Cavalier. I'm a citizen of the Okanichi Band of the Pony Nation in North Carolina. And my dissertation, how I got my doctorate, was on missing murder Indigenous women in North Carolina in oil and gas frontline communities. And it wasn't until 2019 that we were invited to go to DC to the Indigenous Peoples March. And that's where I heard first about the issue. And it made me think, like, what does this mean for North Carolina? I've never heard of this before. And when I came home, I became aware of just things that were happening in our community. And to find a job, I had to take a job 2 hours from where I lived to make money for our family. And so it was every morning I would get up at 6, go to the gas station, fill up, and drive for 2 hours. But one morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, I kissed my kids and they got on the bus, and then, I left. There was this woman who had jumped out of a car at this Flying J gas station. It was just running and screaming. And, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're just like, what is going on? And that stayed on my mind. And for the 2 hours, I had 2 hours to think about what this woman was going through. And, when I got to work, I told my mom, I told Jay, my husband. And then I didn't hear anything else about it until it came on the news that this woman had been human trafficked from a county, one over, to Durham County, to Person County, and then to Alamance County where I live. And it made me think, because the only major highway was by my house where my girls caught the bus. And I thought my community is not as safe as it was when I was a kid. And maybe it was never safe because, my family kept us in a bubble and nobody came to our community because we were Indians and nobody wanted to come and mess with us. But what I found out, because it just got me thinking, I'm a researcher just by nature. What it got me thinking and speaking to in my community was the sheriff, who's super racist. He sits outside of schools and intimidates children with ICE. And I went to his office and I asked him, you have an Indian community here. What are the statistics about missing or murdered women? He didn't have any statistics from 2008 until now. And I'm like, that's impossible. You have a whole community here. And you can't tell me you don't have any drug or alcohol or tickets or anything. And what he told me was, well, we just classify you by the way you look. So if you look black, you're black. If you look white, you're white. And if you look Hispanic or brown, you're Hispanic. And that was it. And that really just didn't make me feel good at all, because now I'm worried about, well, wow, we have people that's missing. So I went to different communities across the state, and I just asked, is this a problem here? And one of our big communities is the Lumbee community. And what I found out was it's a huge problem. There's over 600 women and girls and two-spirits in the Lumbee alone who are missing and murdered because there's no accountability to the police. And also, we have Interstate 95 that runs from New York to Florida. And Robinson County is the middle where there's a lot of drug transfer or human trafficking. So we have this huge interstate and a huge problem. And what I found out is there's corruption among the police. The police, shocking. The police, who are supposed to protect us, right, are the ones that are doing it to us. But what they have done is they've taught our own people how to beat the system, so our people do it to us. And I did the research for 3 years, and we started with Eastern Band of Cherokee. I founded a nonprofit because this was a problem. The state didn't recognize us, they invisibilized us. They just didn't have any accountability. And no matter who I went to, the governor's office, the attorney generals, they just kept passing me to somebody else. And I was just like, this is horrible. So I looked to our leaders because that's what we do. And then I said, wait, like yesterday, I'm a leader. What am I going to do about it? So we founded this nonprofit, and I went to each community and I asked people to join our board. And I was like, you have to be the eyes and ears. And we started collecting this unofficial data. The whole reason I went to school to get my doctorate is because if you don't have those initials behind your name, nobody pays attention to you, especially in the Western society. They just dismiss you. And, I was like, no more. You're just not going to treat me like garbage. I'm somebody, my parents raised me good, my grandma instilled these values in me. And you're going to listen to me. Even though I still have to have Jay, he goes with me, because it's still really patriarchal. And they just dismiss you. But what I found out is, by opening these families and getting the courage to talk about them to everybody, we found out that our people don't even know it's an issue. They don't know, and so we have to educate them that this is happening to them, because it's not the same world that they grew up in. And it's coming so fast. Like somebody yesterday, maybe Grandma Casey said it, time is not on our side. It is happening. Yeah, now, rapid pace. Things are happening, and we have to be able to adapt and change with these modern times. And I thought I had found a saving grace, because we found out that in Robinson County, the police, and I've called them out, which has put a target on my back. I started working with the Department of Justice, and they had this community forum set up. And because of the level of corruption and how our relatives, our own brothers and sisters, they go and get their education, and when they come back home, they've changed. They no longer want to help their relatives. They want to help themselves, so they politely look the other way. And we started calling them out, saying, you have to work with our community. The community is speaking. You're in these elected positions. Please help us. So the guy came down from the Department of Justice, and I was like, yes, finally somebody is listening. And he couldn't even get any help. And he was a Department of Justice, a federal agency, because of the level of corruption that has happened in our community, and our people have just forgotten their way. We've had the judges and politicians who were elected by the people just shut the whole event down. We couldn't even get any community participation, because when people start rising up, and it's a level of fear that they have, when they start rising up, crazy things happen. Like your car ends up running on the opposite side of the interstate, and you have a head-on collision. That's one way that they shut you up. Even now, when I go to the community, I have to take armed security guards with me, because I fear for my life going down there and just raising awareness with the families. We have prostitution, drugs, meth, heroin, you name it. All of these problems. And it's affecting our men too. And we have a lot of swamps in North Carolina. A lot of our people have ended up in the swamps. And there's 3 cases and I've talked to the families, and they've given me permission. There's 3 cases, high-profile cases, that nobody knows. Well, they know what happened, but they will not come forward because one woman was found in the trash can. One woman was found stuffed in a TV cabinet in an abandoned house, and one woman who knew what happened was found 2 weeks later by the train tracks. And the police won't classify these murders as homicides. They just classify them as suspicious deaths. So that means the police have no interest in connecting the dots, interviewing the people, trying to find out what happened. So that leaves the families hurting and just distraught because they have no closure. So our organization, we're working with Lewis Grassroot from and he's coming out here and he's going to teach us some security so we can learn how to walk the grid for our people, because the police won't help us. They won't help us at all. So we have to do this on our own. We have a conference coming up that Norm and Tiana are coming out to bring the teepees so we can have families that can have ceremony, to have closure, but to just understand that that they're paying. But the organization, we have to walk in 2 worlds, because the state just keeps invisibilizing us. Even the Eastern Band of Cherokee, we were able to get a chapter there, and we found out there's so many women who have gone missing or murdered that we didn't even know until we started talking to community members. So we have to talk amongst ourselves and bring back this sense of community, because what I've seen in the last 6 years is this mainstream government is trying to just break apart our communities, make us feel so small and not talk to each other, that we can't let them do that. We have to stay strong, even in the face of adversity. We have to stay strong. And it's leaders like these women here on this panel that give me hope that I can take this back to my community and spread the message. So, Bilahuk for listening, I thank you.
I don't know if anybody has any questions or any comments that they would like to say, or if you have a loved one's name that you would like to say. The young man that I was speaking about earlier, his name is Jackson Yearby. And if you guys could say your loved one's name, Jackson Yearby.
Jackson Yearby.
Jackson Yearby. Jackson Yearby.
Jackson Yearby.
He's 18 years old. If you have the time to reach out to his mom, her name is Shima Lincoln. And I know that she would appreciate just knowing that her son's being thought of. Just so sad. I don't know how to help or where to start or what to do. You know, Stillwater Police has already been reached.
Hello, is this on?
Yes.
Yeah, my sister's name was Kathleen Lorraine Papan.
Kathleen
Lorraine Papan. Her death was considered an accident, so there was an investigation. Who goes and lays down on the railroad track. Anyway, last year, March 5th, my baby brother was shot and murdered at 7-Eleven by the clerk. And his name is Victor Papan.
Victor Papan.
And people that knew him went by. My son went by the store, and I guess he felt something, but he didn't want to look. He said, "Mom, there's yellow tape around 7-Eleven." And he didn't say go see or anything like that. He just told me, and then I thought, should I go or should I not go? But I didn't go, but other people drove by and saw him laying there. And the police our medical examiner, let him lay there uncovered for about 4 hours. And it was just one indignity after another, even by the detectives. They gave me a phone number to call. I called it. It was not a working number. I went down to get a police report. Everything was blacked out except for my brother's info. Someone gave me the name of another detective that wouldn't return phone calls. And when I did finally get a hold of somebody, they said, "Oh, that's the wrong detective." He wasn't even on the case. So I finally got a hold of another detective, and he said, "When we finish the report, we turn it into the DA's office, and then the DA will get a hold of the family." Well, guess what? That never happened. And my attorney friends have written notes to the DA. I have been to the DA's office personally with that same memo with my brother's name, my name, phone number. Nothing ever happened. And so I've heard recently that the young man that shot and killed him was only going to be charged with manslaughter. First, he was only going to be charged with a misdemeanor gun charge because he was underage. He wasn't supposed to even have a gun. And so my brother was not armed. He was shot 3 times, and he was outside the store. So how are you feared for your life if you follow someone out to shoot him? Anyway, there's just so many typical things like this that's going on. I wanted to mention this one lady that I know. They found her daughter in Shawnee, Oklahoma, deceased on a roadway. Same thing with her. She couldn't get any information. No one would call her. She couldn't get any help. So she went to a detective school. She learned how to be a detective so that she could know how to go and get information. And I've thought of that myself. Since no one would give me information about my sister or my brother, I thought the same thing. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know, because we have to find a way to help ourselves and each other when no one is going to help us. No one. So I just wanted to say that what that woman did is a very powerful thing. She's not giving up on her fight. I sort of just, it's just really hard, to pursue these things. And I have other family members I'm trying to protect so that this won't happen again to other family members. I try my best to help them the best that I can. So as family, we get spread thin spiritually, physically. We get spread thin, and we have to get to a point where we have to cut people off. They say don't cut people off. Don't give up on them. And I really don't. But I just have to take a breather. You got to take a breather for yourself. You got to keep yourself spiritually connected the best you can. Physically take care of yourself. So I just wanted to tell you all this as my experience, and to just encourage everybody and just pray for everybody the best we can. And when we hear these things that happen, missing young people, it's just, we say a prayer for them, and we say a prayer for the family, and then that's kind of it, because we're not in that community, or like I said, we're already spread thin with our own things, but we got to find a way to connect when that happens, to go support that family, that young man's family. And I don't know, maybe that's what I should be doing more of. I don't know. I just really am proud of that woman that became a detective. So who knows? I might be Detective Papan one day. Hey.
We're proud of you, Karen. We love you.
Joe Kay wanted me to mention that the Eastern Band of Cherokee people that were invited to be here for this conference weren't able to come because they found one of their nieces deceased in a field right before the conference time last week. So This is all the time. This is everywhere. We're all affected. And I wanted to invite our little guys up that have been here in the daycare. And they've kind of been staying out of the way so that we can do what we need to do, but they've been off working and learning too. And recognize them too, because this is our next generation of people that are going to be sitting here and facilitating these very things and hopefully with better solutions. This is Joe Kay's daughter, Anna Walker, that's been taking care of the kids this whole time, and we sure appreciate you, Anna.
Right.
I think she had more fun than they had. So we talked a little bit about why water is important to us and why we should protect it and why.
Signs under your faces.
Yeah. So we want to see your faces. There we go. So this was their artwork that they come up with after we talked a little bit.
Good job, kids. Thank you, Anna, so much.
Oh yeah, of course we had a good time.
I love it.
Well, someone said last night that we think they're, one of our traditional therapy people that last night, they were saying, these kids are running around here and we think they're not paying attention. And he said, but I remember being in those circles and so they're paying attention.
Yes, they are.
They sure are.
Yes, they are. Thank you, guys.
Good
Good job. Go ahead and take your signs to your cars or whatever you're going to do with them.
The cooks
Give
have
it to
had
your
our
people.
lunch done for over an hour, so we want to dismiss everybody to go have lunch, and then we'll reconvene after lunch. Thank you, guys. Uncle Craig, can you please come make a prayer for our food before we dismiss?
Did you hear us?
Can you come say prayer, Uncle?
It's in the kitchen in there. They want you to bless the food real fast. Real fast.
Yes, they've been waiting on you for a while.
We already missed it.
We got it ready for you. We put out an offering already, brother.
Aho, Daddy Wakanda, Ube. Bless this food that we take in, that it might be a spiritual, uplifting event. Bless our family for cooking our food and preparing it. All the ones who ask, I ask you, Wakanda, Kube, please bless the ones who provided the food and drink. This event, Grandfather, has helped me. I would ask a special blessing for all who participated and all who took part in this, and the organizers. Grandfather, just look on us in a humble, good way, and bless our homes, that we might go back and find it exactly the way we left. Ho, mita kuya.
One little housekeeping note. If you
Okay,
have
everybody,
anything
we are
left
going
in the
to end the
dorm,
live stream. We're going to out to
we need
eat
it-
lunch now,
you
right
need to
now.
clear it out
So
now,
I'll
so
be
the
back on
housekeeping crew
later
can
on.
get in there.
There's other panels
Actually,
that's going to happen after
housekeeping crew
lunch.
in now, but-
So I'll end it right there. So see you guys.